Welcome everyone to Visionary Psychics. I'm Sara Wiseman, and we are here with our visionary psychic, Michele King. Michele is a gifted intuitive guide, an artist, which I think you can already tell from the flavor of her background. And also, she uses a term which we'll talk about in a little bit more depth later, an emotioneer. So welcome, Michele, to this discussion series, and so happy to have you.
Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So, like a lot of people, you came to your psychic gifts after almost like you almost had another life prior to this, or you had a lot of things that you did before this part of you emerged. And I think that that's sort of common for a lot of people. It's like you're going along doing one thing and then boom, all of this, the universe starts to make itself known to you. So tell
Yeah,
us a little bit about, yeah, what your journey's been like that way.
sure. Well, I've owned a marketing and communications firm. I've been a graphic designer from the very beginning, and I always felt this real big connection, spiritual connection, all my life. And I think I just really wanted to figure out how to kind of free myself from this desire to be able to interpret and to use symbolism and my artistic expression. And so, even from a young age, I was always very creative. I love dance, music, art, all of those things. And I think it really gave me an opportunity to really begin to recognize my gifts as an intuitive. I didn't really realize at the time what it was.
Yeah.
And really, until I would say the last 3 years, I didn't really embrace the depth of my gifts.
Yeah.
And I was looking at it more from a surface, maybe a little bit more from a kind of like, okay, I just learned how to do this and it just is natural. It's a talent. And it didn't really I didn't really come into understanding the depth of the divine peace and what I was receiving and how I was receiving it. So
Yeah. That's a really good point. It's like when people first learn, I guess, this language of intuition or how it kind of works,
mm,
it almost becomes like a trick or a technique or something magical that they can just try and it's really fun and fresh that way. And then as they begin to work with it more deeply, they realize all of this information is providing extraordinary guidance for our lives and helping us, deepen as people and expand as souls. Like it's not just for entertainment purposes, I guess. It's just not. It's just not.
sure, absolutely.
So, in terms of and you and I have talked before, but I also have this long background with language and design. And that's really interesting because when we receive intuitively, we often receive in third eye as visions. So that language must have been very easy. At least it was for me as well. Like I know how to
Yeah.
use language. I know how to use design. Tell us about what that's like for you.
Yeah, sure. Um, I I feel like one of the things that I recognized is being able to sense, and my sensibilities have just really, really increased. And when I receive things, from the divine universe, whatever you want to call it. Um, I receive them as a lot of times just multiple images.
Mhm.
And for example, this week, I was thinking about our discussion today, and I was laying in bed. I got a little tap on my toe, and it woke me up like a cramp in my foot, and I started receiving images one right after the other. And so I was getting them so quickly that I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to,
Right,
remember them
right.
all. So
Yeah.
I keep a something by my bed and was able to capture them. But what I'm finding is that, and I heard this word multiplicity,
Mm.
And
Nice,
so
nice.
what really I felt was really being shown to me was that the more I open up to this divine knowing and ask these questions and hold that energy, and be that channel for the divine, then the more I receive and
Yes.
the more answers I get. And one thing, Sarah, that I've always appreciated that stuck with me since we've been really known each other is that everything is your answer.
Yes,
And
yes.
and it stuck with me so much because when you really open up to understanding that, it allows you to look at every little thing. Your awareness is so highly sensitized. And when you open up to that
Mhm.
awareness, then you can awarize that form
Yeah.
in this human expression.
Yeah, I think that's so true. Last night, I ha- I I was actually talking to. I've been doing some of the videos in a row, and so last night I had finished a video, um, and I went out and I had some things on my mind, and I said, "Universe, I've got to drive from here to here, and I'd really like my answer. Just like make it clear." And so I went. So my mom is older and I needed to get her some prescriptions. So I went to the pharmacy. Nothing was ready. There was a huge line. Everything was confused. And then I got in the car and it was a huge traffic jam and there'd been this had gone wrong and then something else went wrong. And I was just kind of sitting there going, so this is my answer, these events, right? And what does it mean? And the
Right.
idea was just like, so you have a choice. You can either fuss and fume about all these supposed challenges, or you can just laugh and go, here's how it is right now. Okay. And not have a big, so that was my answer of, what's your choice? Here's the situation. How do you approach it? And um, I don't know, it just was kind of really funny. It was really funny that it took a prescription mess up and a traffic jam to get me to understand, like, just enjoy what's here. It doesn't even matter that much. It's not important.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely.
when you talk about emotioneering, so you have this gift of creating uh, new words that mean new ideas. So this
Yeah, I
emotioneering,
do.
what is that about? What is that meaning for
Yeah.
you?
Well, I received that. I woke up one night, and it seems like I tend to be a night person, as you can tell.
Yeah.
Things come to me at nighttime, which is
Mhm.
not unlike most artists and creative
Yeah.
people, I think, and intuitives as well. A lot of times in our dream states, too, we get really powerful messages if we're open to them. So, but I received this word, emotioneer, and I was
Mhm.
like, emotioneer? And it immediately made me think of an Imagineer, like in the Walt Disney,
Mhm.
they're
Mhm.
Imagineers. And so I thought, ooh, this is magical and cool,
Yes.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, what does this mean? So what I've really recognized, and this has been probably last year when I received that word, that it's important to me to work through to these soul lessons that we have. And when I'm working with someone, it's
Mhm.
not just one image, it's not just one thing. It's kind of like a multiple things in various layers that we're pulling away and working through. And um, I was doing some spiritual advising with a friend of mine, for a friend of mine just recently. And he talked about just sometimes there's these things that I say that I bring forward, that stick with him.
Yes.
And
Right.
it takes time for those things to flow. Once those seeds are planted and those thoughts are done, then it takes time to experience that flow and to work through that. And we were talking about change versus transcendence versus transmutation and
Yes.
dissolving. And
Yeah.
so it's really getting to the deeper layers and expanding those layers out. And emotioneering is kind of working through those layers and
How to
experiencing
navigate. Yeah.
that flow, and how do we work through those. So as an intuitive guide and an emotioneer, um, being able to help people recognize maybe what those things are, and using my divine gifts. I don't know sometimes why I get certain things, but I'm there to
Yes.
hear them. And hopefully, as they start to build, multiple things, they integrate and they transform, and they really begin to transcend and really find their truth, and their connection deepens. So
Yeah.
that's really what I'm looking at as an emotioneer, is being able to help with that.
Well, it's sort of like obviously like what we pay attention to expands, and so when you're helping someone pay attention to some things that maybe you as the intuitive receive immediately, but maybe they're a little more blind to or have a blind spot on, then suddenly you brought that into their awareness, and then they can start paying attention to it and working through it. I think that's very right about, like, I have no idea why I just said that about the pharmacy and the traffic. I am imagining that probably for somebody listening, they're going to have just had that experience that day. I don't know what's going to happen, but I try to not censor, like we talk about that tube, like keep the tube open and
Right.
don't really get in the way, because even the most strange things
Mhm.
may have meaning for the client. We don't always know. We're
Right.
getting ourselves, like moving ourselves aside and just be like, here's what it is.
Right. Exactly. And strange things definitely happen.
Strange things. Yeah.
And when you become aware of what those things are, I think, having gone through kind of my own emotioneering and my
Mm-hmm.
own path, and opened up to others' intuitive guidance like yours and others that I've shared
Mm-hmm.
with,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's really deepened and widened and
Mm-hmm.
expanded my own. So, that divine compassion kicks in,
Yeah.
and that understanding. But again, it's not mine. It's what I receive and
Yes.
what I'm here to share. Um, and it's up to that person, that soul, to kind of come in and sit here in the room, be in the space, and really sit there, and we hold that energy together.
Yeah. What do you think, especially having this creative background? I mean, creative receiving is very similar to intuitive receiving. Possibly it's the same exact thing. It's just a different way of expression. Um, yeah, I feel like when I was working in the creative fields, I really the faucet was always available to turn on.
Mhm.
Like there was never, if you got stuck thinking of a solution, a creative solution, design or language solution, you just step away, breathe, turn the creative faucet, there it is. And it feels like with intuition also, um, we may not exactly always understand how to put stuff together, that we receive at first, but when we keep turning that faucet on, it just keeps flowing through, and over time the patterns, start to emerge.
Right, right. And I think too, having that creative sense and the artistic abilities, and knowing how to be in that kind of a space,
Yeah. Yeah.
natural. It's very natural for me because I always go to it. It's something I desire.
Yeah.
It's a freedom. It's a liberation of being in that truth of who I am and creating and there's a vibrancy and an
Mhm.
excitement and a delight and joy that comes when you're in that creative space. You're on the edge of something a little wild and magical.
Yeah.
And so, you're not just taking, whatever's there. You're like, okay, this is it, but there's got to be something more.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so for me, I've always been a seeker.
Hmm.
And it's been something, that I think has been a yearning for me to be more psychic. Honestly, I think
Yes,
I've
right.
always wanted to be that. I just had no
Yes.
idea
Yeah, yeah.
that
Well,
it was always there. It was just, it's just come to me in a different way. And I think we all have our own ways of interpreting and receiving those gifts. And
Well, the world has definitely changed, and um, a lot of us who had these gifts as children but weren't given the vocabulary to know that's what it was. And
yeah,
here we are in this new time where it's not acceptable everywhere, of course, but there's more and more acceptance, and more people are practicing and studying, um, and and more. What I notice is that the clients that are coming are more and more. Maybe 20 years ago, it used to be, tell me about my love life, and kind of a narrow focus, and now it's like, what are my soul lessons? It's a big
right.
shift in terms of people's consciousness as a whole. When you work with clients, like, you're a very high energy person and high vibration, like, I know even just from the start of this
Yeah.
call we kind of woof. When you are working with somebody, like, sometimes you'll get somebody that maybe um, has a lot of deep, dark stuff to still uncover, and they're maybe in what to them feels like a stuck phase, and yet you can see, like, oh, you're just moving through this. How do you work with? I'm not sure what my exact question is, but how do you help someone that maybe doesn't have access to some of these ideas about intuition, like trusting what you're receiving and talking them through what you're seeing? I'm not sure if it's a clear question or not. Respond as what comes into your mind.
Well, one of the things that I feel I am good at is really deeply listening
Mhm.
and feeling other people's energy. Obviously, I get a lot of body sensations. I get things that come to me when I'm talking with someone, and so if someone's kind of fearful, or they're talking through something that I know is really difficult, I can usually sense that,
Yeah.
and because I feel it too.
Right,
And
right.
so, it's important for me to recognize those things that come so that I can shift my energy to hold them, um, and be a deep listener and allow them to express and ask questions. Um, and I'm not there to answer the questions for them. I'm there to help
Right,
guide them. And I think many people come saying, "Hey, help me figure this out," and that's not what I'm here to do. I'm
right.
here to um, be a guide and provide the information. And if they want
Mhm.
clarity, then I'm here to listen and help them find that clarity.
Right.
I will say that I am a Scorpio, so I'm a very deep person,
Mhm, mhm.
and I have Mars also, so that's probably the vibrant piece that you're seeing
Yes,
right now.
right,
But I'm
right.
very, very emotional, and very deep, and so there's times where things can be rather intense.
Yes.
And I understand that intensity because that's where I live in my horoscope.
Well, yeah, and and I have my moon in Scorpio. I think we've talked about that before, but
Yeah.
that's where this emotioneering comes in. It's like you're helping someone walk through the murky stuff and the nice stuff and the murky stuff again. It's like you've seen it all, and or you felt it all, or you have an understanding, so you can take them and walk them through. I think that's really useful about that idea that you feel it. I feel it too. I think a lot of people sometimes, I'll just be working with someone that's like, why is my stomach just so upset? It's like, okay, what
Right.
is this? Like, where is that mess? What is that about? Like, so we check here, we check with our feelings, we check with the guides. We've got all these checking systems. Other people use maybe cards or something, and
Right.
this continual cross checking of the information that's coming in.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
So in your own life, so what I find is it's very easy to see for others.
Mhm.
In my own life, not not as good. Um, um, and I think it's because of like, the information is just as clear. it's just this my personality style kind of just rejecting rejecting it. So
Well,
what
we
is
all have those
yeah.
moments for sure.
So in your own journey of finding your own guidance for yourself, did you, or are you just like the perfect listener and it all
Oh
just comes
no.
through? Yeah, yeah.
I've had to really work at it.
Mhm.
And I think one of the things, I live in the Midwest in the United States, and there's a lot of hard work ethic that I
Uh-huh.
grew up with, and the context in my family I grew up with, and so I always had to work for things, so
Right.
I knew it wasn't just handed to me. I had to really work for it and show for it. I was a pretty high achiever, as you can probably tell.
Yeah.
But I will say that it's been a devotion. It's been
Yes,
something.
yes.
It's a space that I'm so devoted to, and it's not been a bed of roses. Let me tell you, when you work on yourself and you work on your soul lessons, it's very deep, and it's
Hmm.
you have things come up that you just didn't even know were there.
Right.
You really begin to clear, and you get this clarity, and you just keep opening another layer up. It just keeps coming, and it takes dedication, but it takes a desire to really want that connection and that deep connection.
Yeah.
And I think I've had that deep desire for a long time, but so much more in these last 3 or 4 years. So
Yeah.
I've really made an effort. I spend time, I have practices that really
Hmm.
help me keep that connection strong, because it's so easy to just let it, you just go on in your life as a human, but that's not who I am. And
Right.
it's not what I desire. And my deep yearning, keeps me connected and wanting to deepen that all the time.
I think that's exactly right. Kind of this idea of spiritual practice is not 10 minutes of meditation in the morning, it's your whole life being open, all like almost like there's not a time you're not in that space and connection. Um and then the things that when you were younger maybe that would have been distraction or allowed you to forget that you were part of oneness,
Mhm.
you just kind of start letting go of more and more distraction
Yeah.
and kind of start to exist in this way that's well, I find myself, it is no fun, you're right, to do that deep murky work, but once you get through that,
Oh, yeah.
then you're laughing more, you're compassionate, you're much more peaceful. You sort of are detaching from a lot of the egoic concerns that the world seems to bring in. Um, that seems like a remarkable way to be in life, is just to work on that opening of the self.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
That's
other, yeah, what other things would you like people to know about your work in particular as we kind of get to our finishing
Yeah.
point?
Well, one of the things that I'm finding that is really coming natural to me, and because of the artistic and creative side, I recognize I still love that artistic expression in whatever ways it comes. And one of the things that I'm finding I really can apply is, since I do receive a lot of multiple images all at
Hmm.
once, then it's allowed me to really start to work with being clear and setting clear intentions and energy for others. Whether it could be something that we're really working through. It could be for an event or something that's really important to them in their life. They're trying to get clarity around it, and just really looking at setting intentions, and then creating what I'm calling kind of like maybe an altar or soul
Hmm.
table
Hmm.
for setting energy, and asking, for the divine to say, what kinds of energies do I need to carry forward? What do I need to leave behind? What am I
Yes.
working on now? And I really enjoy working with objects and the nature. Nature has been a wonderful guide for me. I get a lot of things from nature. I get a lot of my connection through nature, and so being outside, looking for ways to create something as a holder and a
Hmm.
symbol for the energy to keep
Yes.
in the forefront. So it's always out there and you're with it and doing
Hmm.
your spiritual time with those space holders for energy.
Yeah.
So that's something that I'm really excited about doing. I've been
I
working on it and
I
doing.
think that's a really exceptional, like some people use, say, um, maybe they might use a crystal as a energy or intention holder, like the
Mhm.
essence of that particular crystal will contain the vibrational quality that they're seeking to enhance. And you're absolutely right. You can create through an altar or objects or writing for some people or all these ways that same level of, it's almost like, hey universe, here's what I'm working on. Hey universe, I'm super open to hearing your
Yes,
input.
right.
And it's just another way of like grounding the language, because not everybody's super third eye, so they don't have to be. There's lots of
Right.
ways to do this
Absolutely.
work.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
Well, Michelle, thank you so much for your time today, and I will put all of your contact information for people to find you below,
yeah.
but it's been really a pleasure to work with you today.
Thank you, Sarah.
So,
Same to you.
okay, thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.